Hello and welcome to Headliners. In its new look, your first look at Friday's top stories with three top comedians. First things first, hot off the press, let's crank through the front pages. We have The Times, Reeves risks hurting pensioners. Telegraph, Reeves warned over £50 billion debt fiddle. The Daily Mail, Labour's budget ploy will punch mortgage holders. The Guardian, PM rules out payments but could back non-cash slavery reparations. The Metro, £1.8 billion cost of thieving crisis. And the Daily Star, there's a guy each down the curry house swears he's Paul Weller. So, those are the front pages. Let's kick off with the Daily Mail in some detail. Kerry, what do you pick out from there?
You wouldn't know it, but the budget is coming up. And we are very deep in speculations and warnings because no one likes a budget.
No.
And it's coming soon. So we're hearing about changing of fiscal rules, new definitions, and everything that the Chancellor can do to kind of mould this budget into something that is not going to sound like a Liz Truss budget or cause fear in the markets and so on, which she doesn't seem to be able to escape from right now.
You say that, but actually it does sound like a little bit like a Liz Truss budget because there's suddenly a huge borrowing element, which is what Jeremy Hunt is warning is going to push mortgages up.
Yes, this changing the rules could allow her to borrow an extra $50 billion, which... yes, I mean, that is going to... I don't really see that she's in a position that she can do much here that's going to satisfy anyone. So, you know, I mean, the talk of putting up business national insurance, everything has knock-on effects.
It's always trade-offs.
There are always trade-offs and they always lose. And I think we should just get rid of budgets. They're very upsetting. And they're like getting a bill at the end of a meal where you've been eating with people who eat a lot more than you and someone who's a drunk.
Well, that's certainly true. I do think on this occasion it's been like receiving the bill or being waiting for it 4 days after you finished eating the meal. I mean, this has been trailed and trumpeted and hands have been wrung over it for feels like a good couple of months now.
I would continue the analogy that I never got the meal and my parents ate the meal.
You are too close to being a boomer yourself to get away with that kind of material, despite the new look.
We'll see. Well, I mean, the black hole's like getting bigger. I think this is the worst of both worlds because it seems like she's borrowing an extra 50 billion or the potential for it, which is nearly £2,000 per family. Plus saying at the same time, oh, by the way, the taxes are going to go up to the worst they've ever been. So it's kind of like we're getting it at both ends. And it was a terrible meal.
Yes. So, it wasn't even worth it.
There was all the things. But until the actual budget comes out, you don't really know what's going to happen. You don't know how the market's going to react. Of course, banks do like people being in debt.
I want to know what the 50 billion's for. Obviously, you know, there's a huge number of established expenses they can't avoid. There's debt interest payments, there's the welfare sector and so on. Is that all she's going to spend it on? Or is there maybe some infrastructure, create some new jobs, some levelling up?
Well, they're trying to build all these houses and they're talking about improving the NHS, although that was really meant to come the NHS through organising it better. So I don't know, and I guess that's what we're going to find out in the budget. For normal people, I consider myself somewhat of a normal person, it's about what's going to happen with my mortgage. I've got to redo my mortgage next year. If we've borrowed more money, that means interest rates. This is what Jeremy Hunt's saying. That means that interest rates aren't going to be coming down as early as we thought, which means everyone's going to basically be paying higher for their mortgages. So,
especially those, as you say, who only took out the shortest possible mortgage, thinking it won't be this expensive for long. Yeah.
So the other thing on the Mail is you've got Prince Charles. He's in Samoa and he's drinking some Kava. And now I don't know if Kava is... if that's...
The same as the Kava that you get instead of Prosecco.
It could, yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully
it says traditional Kava. I don't know whether that's different from a non-traditional Kava, whatever that would be.
In the Telegraph, he looks very happy there. You can see him. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's the before photo from the Mail, and then in the Telegraph, you see him, and he's just totally wasted. And he's just sitting in his chair where he's got his leopard skin or whatever.
I think it's also after he's told them they're not getting the reparations, and then it's just lemonade.
He's got the better half of the job, hasn't he? He sits there getting served by sort of, you know, traditional ceremonial dressed Samoans.
Yes.
While Keir Starmer's got to... Well, hang on a minute there.
Yeah, sorry.
But... He's wearing a bush jacket, which is made famous, of course, by Roger Moore, James Bond. It's nice to see it making a comeback. They've also got, obviously, the Reeves warned over 50 billion debt fiddle. The other big story that they have is force is not ready for war, admits Defence Secretary.
Yeah.
And it's sort of hard to... Because every Defence Secretary who comes in, whether it's in a new government or not, will always come in and go, you know what, we've got no money and we're not underprepared and please give us more money. At some point, surely it's going to backfire, sort of saying to our enemies...
Yes.
Saying,
yeah.
by the way, guys,
keep your mouth
we can't
shut.
fight a war at the moment. We've got no army, which is essentially what they're saying.
They're going to fall straight into our trap.
Oh, you think what it is? So we could do skirmishes, military operations, but we just can't fight a war.
Well, what we've got to hope is that the enemy don't come in small boats. We've already found out we're not good at dealing with that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We used to say, it was a famous saying 200 years ago, I do not say they cannot come, I only say they cannot come by sea. But in fact, that turns out to have been very optimistic.
They can come.
I think there is a sort of suggestion that the military are very highly trained, they're highly skilled, that they have a lot of high tech. But
all four of them.
We just don't. Exactly, we don't have the numbers. We just don't have the numbers.
Yeah, they're saying we're military operations, everything's good except we can't fight.
Yeah.
Which is a major drop. That's a problem for an army.
Our military diversity stuff is amazing. We've got the best pride badges of any military.
It is very similar to the, I can't remember, it was the Commonwealth Trust or somebody that came up with a report a few years ago about the NHS, and it beat every other healthcare system in the world on every criteria except health outcomes.
Right, yeah. Which is a major factor, really, isn't it?
Our boots are the shiniest boots in the army, any army.
But it's also, I wonder whether, if it came to... there's no reason to think we are actually heading to war, although we might be. But I wonder if there was conscription now and how many people would actually in this country want to fight for their country.
Would you?
Well, I'm too old, so I can't. Otherwise, absolutely, of course I would. But what I mean is there's such an anti-British, anti-Western thing going on, and I don't think people globalising intifada on the streets right now would want to sign up. I wonder how many of the country really would right now, where we're at.
I'm up for it.
Josh is going to save us.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of us who haven't really put beside the sort of pension provision we might have been, advised to earlier on, might be able to take that kind of hint.
I've always fancied myself as a bit of a sniper. By the way, I went on a stag do. I shouldn't really mention the story, but I went
a sniper.
I went on a sniper stag do.
You mean Poland, you didn't get invited?
And it was the Polish sniper team, like paintball. They absolutely destroyed me. So it turns out I wouldn't be a good sniper.
Right.
Paintball's always a good point in that. We missed out the fish and chip story, but
I'm sorry. Now we're going to have to jump over.
Okay, we'll move on then. There's more about... let's move on to this one. This is the PM rules out payments, but could back non-cash slavery reparations. So this is with the Commonwealth Summit, and of course the subject of reparations has come up again, and there's no way they've chosen really bad timing here, because all that's being talked about in this country is how broke we are in 22 billion black holes and so on. So there's talk of we can do something, restructuring financial institutions, providing debt relief. Other suggestions are give them some tea and biscuits, coffee mugs that say we're terribly sorry, and hope they'll be happy with that. And maybe have a national apology day in which the Toffs go apologise for everything they've ever done. I don't really see that this is going to go anywhere. It's one of these things that comes up every now and then, and I think David Lammy at one point was very supportive of it, and now is in an awkward position because of that. I saw him in an interview where he talked about the fact that he's descended from slaves, but he's also descended from slavers. Which means you're descended from both. I mean, he very much talked about it as if, therefore, someone in his family made him a victim at some point. But it's like, no, you're related to both sides. So.
I would have to say his physicality suggests that he's inherited more from one side than the other. But yeah, there is that clip going around, isn't there, in which he seems to sort of inhabit a very strong Caribbean identity in that.
Yes.
It's rather embarrassing for our foreign secretary.
But Starmer's basically said, he's been very clear about this. He said, no, we're not going to do any financial reparations. So it's a slightly weird thing that... but then supposedly someone at number 10 has said, no, we're open to other stuff. But what is there apart from the finances and the apologies or whatever, which Starmer has also said they don't want to do? So this idea of sorting out debt relief and various other things, that's not really to do with reparations. That's to do with sorting out issues that exist now. Yeah. And there are, of course, arguments that these countries are being exploited by the banks and the debt relief. There's a theory of development, of underdevelopment, where they're using their excess to pay off these interest rates and whatnot.
But also, who's responsible now? I mean, if it's reparations on behalf of the country, we're talking about hundreds of years ago. We've had a massively changed demographic through emigration and immigration. There's a question of regional culpability because, of course, parts of the UK were never involved and other parts were. There's the class divide because largely it was the upper class who benefited from slavery, and this would be costing the working class who weren't benefiting from it in the first place. So and it's quite a complicated issue.
But there is someone who just says that they want a conversation towards forging a common future. This is what they were based on equity, not on equality, based on equity. And I don't remember Martin Luther King or anybody saying, I want a future based on equity.
Can we have a look at the Times? I don't know that they've got anything very much new.
My female boss tried to seduce me. This is very sexy story on the front. It's inside the paper. Oh, well. You've got to buy the Times to get the inside story of who the female boss. It looks good. And you got the king again. There's another picture of the king. He's hanging out with the Samoans. They look like they're really having a laugh on Kava. It's like through the papers, we're seeing the progression of his evening. We see the drink. We see him just being like a little bit wasted. And now he's out with his mates. And they're all like, woo, I'm with the king.
And there's no one complaining. There's no one complaining. There's only one white guy in the picture this time with a royal.
Well, why is he the only one with an umbrella and everybody else seems to be dry and the umbrella seems to be producing rain?
Why is that? You're right.
It's a sort of photographic artifact, but it seems...
Well, fortunately, they're topless, so they don't need to worry about getting any clothing wet.
I think that's rice they're throwing at him.
Oh, maybe it is, yeah, okay. The Sun, very quickly, what do we have in that? Nuke sub in food shortage?
A rather odd story, yes. A sub that was 6 months patrolled underwater and ran out of food. And they don't say whether it's one of ours. I'm not quite sure. I'm assuming it's ours.
And only half the crew
ate each other and one person was left.
Basically, it's like Alive, but under the sea.
They ended up sharing their scraps and their bits of chocolate and so on, which is a nice story. People sharing with each other, right?
So not only do our army, we've got 4 people in our army, and we've got subs that we're sending out for 6 months with not enough Ritz crackers. That's terrible.
Do they not even have subs to eat on a sub?
That's the front pages done. Coming up.